Welcome, everyone, to our PennyWise podcast from Lee Enterprises. I'm your host, Teri Barr. Happy to have you here with us today. And joining us, Holden Lewis. Holden is a mortgage expert with NerdWallet. Holden is going to share what I think maybe many of you will find as a surprise when it comes to some home remodeling trends. Holden, thanks for being here today.
Hey, welcome.
Yeah. I'm shocked by some of this, honestly. And I have to guess that anyone else listening or watching this podcast will think, what is happening? But we're seeing some new trends develop in home remodeling. And I guess first question I want to ask you is, why is this happening?
It's happening because people are stuck at home. And what I mean by that is there are just not many homes that are available for sale right now. People are reluctant to list their homes for sale. And that started during the COVID epidemic and it's still continuing. And
Yeah.
so what happens is people say, "Oh, I want to buy a house, but I'm afraid that if I sell my house, I'm not going to be able to find a home to buy." So I tell you what, instead of buying a house, I'm just going to stay in the one I'm in and I'm going to fix it up. I'm going to do some renovations. And so, yes, you are seeing kind of an upward bulge of renovations.
Now is when we get into what is the surprising part. We've talked about the home shows. Many of them are still showing a trend of wide open spaces, open straight from the living room, family room through to the kitchen. That is not a trend anymore, though, is it? What are you seeing, Holden?
Well, what we're seeing is this desire for people to have quiet and privacy. They want to be able to work from home in some peace and quiet. The kids want to be able to learn at home in some peace and quiet and sort of insulate their noise from the rest of the house. So what you're seeing is this desire among people, among homeowners to have doors, to have soundproofing, all of that kind of stuff. And so what we're seeing is a few people are doing some renovations to carve out space so they can have some quiet. I am all for this.
Well, you're working from home, and so am I. So I get
Exactly.
it.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the deal. Like, I grew up in a house that had this kitchen with one door on either end. And so you could close both doors. And that way, if you were in the living room or in the dining room, you just didn't hear the sink. You didn't hear people banging on the stove and all that kind of stuff. It was great. My home now, I live in Florida.
Hmm.
Well, the kitchen sink is literally 7 feet from my ears when I'm sitting on the couch to watch TV.
Oh, dear.
And the stove is 11 feet away from my ears. So what that means is sometimes if I want to hear what's on the TV, I have to actually put in AirPods to listen. And so, the open floor plan, it's just I've never liked it. I've never been the type to entertain like every home buyer on HGTV wants to do. So, I just think it makes perfect sense to kind of live the old fashioned way and actually have rooms where you can have privacy
Yeah.
and some peace and quiet.
Do you see this trend changing? Obviously, it's come into play pretty quickly in the last year. People that maybe remodel and give themselves separate rooms again, will that remain a trend for a while going forward?
I My guess is that we are going to see this trend continue because once people get a taste of a little bit of quiet and privacy, they're not going to want to give it up.
That is true. Boy, I understand that. Now, you had five, and so the first one on the list we just covered, not wide open anymore, dedicated spaces. You're also saying there's this new search for a home office, and probably not just tucked in a corner anymore either.
That's right. So this is kind of really, it's part of a continuation of what we were talking about.
Hmm.
But what people are doing is they are repurposing spaces in the home, maybe kind of knocking out a wall and then kind of moving that wall a little bit further inside a closet, for example, and just enlarging a space for home office, or maybe even, kind of walling off a corner of a room. It might even only be like a screen, but just something that isolates the home office worker. It's just something that we're seeing a lot, and it can be kind of involved. I mean, let's say you do convert a closet into a home office. Well, you're going to want to ventilate it. You're going to want to heat and cool it, and maybe just run coaxial and Ethernet cable into it. And so, it's kind of it's not just a simple knock a wall down and put up a new wall. You actually have to think about it. Otherwise, you're going to swelter and freeze and have bad internet connection.
Right,
Who wants
right.
that?
Well, and it sounds like, yes, okay, we talk about money every week, obviously, PennyWise. And it sounds like it'll take some money to do some of this, but it's different than actually going to try and buy a brand new house, too.
That's for sure. I mean, it just takes less hassle, I guess, in some ways. I mean, fixing up a house to sell it, hey, you're already doing some renovation work when you do that.
Right.
So, I think that a lot of times when people repurpose rooms or parts of rooms for home offices, they're doing it in the DIY way and, trying to do it cheap.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, whatever works in these days, right? Just
That's
gives you
right.
that privacy. I love number 3 on this list. Finding a way to get more time, better time, maybe outside.
What we're seeing is it's an outgrowth of finding a safe way to socialize during the pandemic. We still know that socializing outdoors is safer than being indoors. And so people have been spending more time outdoors. They've been putting in pools, either in ground or above ground. They've been, installing fire pits and outdoor kitchens and that kind of thing. So, we're seeing some of that. But, there's more to outdoor renovations than just those things. I mean, there's obviously landscaping, and people have been landscaping not only for beauty, but even for function. For example, let's say there's a spot you like to be in and you want it shady in the summertime and you want it sunny in the wintertime. Well, if you strategically plant a tree near that spot, that's what you can get. And maybe also you can get that tree to cast shade on your roof during the summer and let the sun shine on it in the winter. And, now not only you are comfortable, but your house is consuming less energy.
Yes. And that's got to be a good selling point, again, if and when you decide to sell.
Yeah, I'm all for this whole passive heating and cooling thing, which I think is the term people use for strategically planting trees. I think it's great.
Nice, nice. Moving on to the next one. How about the remodel waiting times? Now, I find this really interesting because obviously, if more people are having to stay in their homes because they can't find a new home, or, I have some friends that have been looking for a long time, they may buy an older home because they like having the separate rooms, but yet they want a contractor to come in and do some things too. But I guess what you are seeing and saying is be prepared to wait to get the work done if you're hiring someone.
That's right. And there's like multiple issues going on here. First of all, even now, some contractors are trying to limit their employees' exposure to homeowners and, frankly, their clients' exposure to their employees. So, you might find smaller work crews in homes, and of course, that's going to make the work go more slowly.
Yeah.
But also, some permitting government agencies are a little bit slow too. They might have workers working at home, not there with all the big filing cabinets in the big government office, right? So things might slow down from that standpoint too. There's also another issue besides kind of the slowness. Well, let me back up. Okay, so you have that employment part of it, but also, of course, you have a lot of people who at the same time want to get renovations done.
Right.
So the contractors also have kind of a backlog of work. And, one of the downsides of that is that contractors might kind of pick and choose their jobs. And if you have a small dollar job, they might not want to bother with it.
Makes sense, doesn't it? What kind of
Right.
overall remodel prices are we talking about when you look at some of the things that are being done? Are some of these going to be pretty costly projects?
Sure. I mean, if you want to knock down a wall to create a home office and put up a new wall and make a room bigger and install heating and cooling and all that stuff, yeah,
Okay.
it's going to
Yeah.
cost you some money. Um, and people, of course, are doing all sorts of just regular renovations too, kitchen and bathroom that aren't really necessarily COVID related, to try to carve out privacy and all that. And still, of course, those are definitely going to be costly renovations. I mean, gosh, kitchen renovations are pretty notorious for being expensive.
Hopefully you get your money back in the end, as you say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, the fifth one,
Mhm.
neutral. We are no longer neutral. We don't want to be bland and neutral in color. What is happening?
When you talk to Sherwin-Williams, Pantone, Benjamin Moore, they're saying people are looking for bold colors. And
Yeah.
what's really strange is sometimes the definition of bold, like you're just like, huh? Okay, because Sherwin-Williams and what was Benjamin Moore,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, uh, they're saying that elements of gray are really hot now. Now, gray, well, I don't know. That sounds kind of boring, doesn't sound bold, but actually, when you think about it, putting gray on your walls can be kind of a bold statement. And
Ah,
Benjamin Moore says that a gray in combination with a bright yellow is kind of a hot thing right
ooh,
now.
I like
And then,
that.
yeah, also there's a Aegean teal that's a hot color now. Kind of like if you imagine going to a Greek island and you look down and there's that greenish blue water in the Aegean Sea, that is Aegean teal. And I can see where, yeah, that might be a pretty pleasant color to look at.
Ah, it sounds very relaxing.
It
And if we're
does.
all running around each other at home, yeah, it seems like we would need that kind of space to relax a little bit too. Okay, so we've got neutral colors in your home out. We've got the larger remodeling. Be prepared because the contractors may take a while to get there. We're wanting more time outside. We have dedicated spaces and we want a home office. These are pretty substantial. So when you listen to these and think about these, what can we take away from all these new trends?
I think that one thing we can take away is that if you're trying to sell a home,
Mhm.
being able to offer these amenities is probably a really good thing. Well, except for maybe the bold colors, because I think when you're selling a home, just go ahead and do the neutral colors. They might be boring, but people can walk into an empty home and the neutral colors are there and they can imagine what they can do to it to personalize it. Whereas if you have like gray and bright yellow, people might just focus on, oh my gosh, it's gray and bright yellow. And they're
What do
not
I do with
picturing where they're going to
that?
put the Christmas tree. Because
Yeah.
I got to tell you, what I'm told is what real estate agents say is if they're showing a house and the potential buyer says, well, where would we put the Christmas tree? They've got a sale.
How about that? I guess love where you live and try to make it your own is the bottom line of this.
That's exactly right. And
Yeah.
when you're selling, try to let that buyer picture making that a home of their own.
Wow.
And if you
Oh,
have a home office in there, they're going to be psyched.
bonus. Holden, this has been a fascinating conversation. You're probably going to inspire some people to make some changes. So we wish them luck with their changes
Yeah.
as they move forward. Holden Lewis, the mortgage expert with NerdWallet. Thanks so much, Holden, for joining me.
Hey, my pleasure.
It was a lot of fun. This is your PennyWise podcast from Lee Enterprises. I'm Teri Barr, and thanks for listening and watching.